Hello, everybody. Where it's midnight here, 12 noon Eastern time back in the States, our global travel update for the week, coming to you from Bangkok in Thailand and the legendary Oriental Hotel. But before I tell you about that, let me tell you where I was yesterday to give you an idea of how wild a travel week this is. Show this picture. Yesterday, I was in northern China in Harbin, where the temperature was minus 22. That's right. That's the layered look. And where am I standing? They're known for their ice and snow tourism. This is amazing ice carvings out of huge blocks of ice. Entire cities built on this, not functioning cities, but displays of amazing artwork with carved ice. Pretty amazing. So that's the story there. Well, I jumped on a plane and flew about 8 hours, and that landed me right here in Bangkok, where the temperature is 95 degrees. That's a swing in temperature, boy. But I'm still alive. I'm still here to talk to you. And of course, I'm always happy to return to Bangkok, and especially to this hotel. I have a long-standing relationship with the Oriental. It's celebrating its 150th birthday next year, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks. And I've been coming here for at least 1/3 of that time. I first came here in 1978. Yes, I was a baby. And I'm going to tell you a story which is as true then as it's true today. When I got off the plane in Bangkok back in 1978, everybody was so nice to me, I couldn't understand why. I kept on thinking, well, they must be eating somebody else named Greenberg, so why are they so nice to me? Remember the old Groucho Marx line that you would never join a club that would have you as a member? And then it suddenly dawned on me it had nothing to do with me or my name or who I was. It's who the Thai people are, the epitome of hospitality and grace and style and it's just and welcoming. And I got immediately spoiled then. I'm still spoiled today. For those of you who know, about 32 years ago, I was so excited about Bangkok, I built a house here with a good friend of mine, Rudy Maxa, and right on the river. And we were in it for 25 years. What an amazing experience that was. If you love a place, jump on it, right? I still love Thailand. And the Oriental hasn't changed at all in terms of their service and their hospitality. When we have government leaders talk about the golden age of travel, they need to come here if you want to see the golden age, which is still the golden age in terms of service and style and hospitality and food. I'm going to start to sound like a bad brochure here, but I'm not kidding. If you want to talk about a grand hotel in the traditional definition of hospitality, the Oriental is where you want to go. And happy to be back here. By the way, I'm sitting inside the old wing of the hotel. That's the structure that's 150 years old. And it goes back to celebrating all the famous authors who've stayed here. Not just who stayed here, who've written here. Everyone from, Paul Thoreau and Somerset Maugham and even Gore Vidal, and the writer of The White Lotus, which was written right here at the hotel. So there's a whole history and a tradition here that is not to be ignored. In fact, it's to be embraced. And so that's all the good news I have to report this week. Now let's talk about the news. Sorry, we have a situation now where there are 154 countries right now. 153 of them can be celebrating this year because they've had a substantial increase in visitors from foreign countries in tourism. The one country out of the 154 that's had a decrease, the only country that's had a decrease, the United States of America. We've had 8 consecutive months of a decline in foreign visitors and tourists, and the numbers are staggering. Over 7% over last year, down. That's a revenue shortfall of over $41 billion. By the way, that's $41 billion. That's revenue that can't be recouped. That's not just airlines and hotels. That's everything from restaurants and retail and dry cleaners and theme parks and you name it, that are hurting because of this. And will it get better right now for the United States? Right now, I'd have to say, in the short term, probably not. It's going to get worse. All on the eve of FIFA and the World Cup in 2026, where 11 U.S. cities will be hosting the games. Let me give you some numbers here. We already knew what happened this summer, right? 44% down on visitors from Canada, 19% down from the UK, 15% down from Korea, 34% down from Germany, 38% from Denmark. It goes on and on and on. And people didn't just make decisions that they weren't going to come for the summer. They made decisions because people had to book 8 to 10 months in advance. They weren't going to come at all this year at all, which now rolls over to next year because in the last 3 months, the Trump administration has gone from just instituting a $250 visa fee, which could be cost prohibitive for so many travelers anyway, and that's assuming you get a visa, to now making a proposal that visitors need to post a bond of up to $15,000 to guarantee that when their visa expires to the U.S., they go home. Who's got $15,000? And now it's gotten even more problematic with another proposal that visitors to the U.S. may need to supply 5 years of their social media history, maybe even taking a DNA swab. Forgetting the constitutional and the legal issues raised by all of that, and you and I both know it's going to end up in the courts, forget that. It's the message, it's the optics that these announcements are sending to the world that the United States is either being inhospitable or unwelcoming or overly expensive or all three. And this is what's facing us for 2026, a lack and a drop of essential revenue at a time when travel and tourism powers the GDP. Let's be honest. And for you soccer fans, some other numbers to consider. 11 cities in the U.S., you already know the dates that are going to be hosting the games. In each of those 11 cities, and you know the dates of those games, right? In each of those 11 cities, hotels there should have already been full and booked, solid. You know what their bookings are right now? In the low double digits. That tells you everything you need to know. But wait, there's more. Travelers have changed their booking patterns, and that's a serious indication of a problem in the economy, a problem with politics, and a problem in feeling hospitable. Let me explain. Most people will book in advance 6 to 8 months on their major trips. You know what it is today? Less than 6 weeks. In some cases, sometimes less than 2 weeks. That booking window has shrunk. And what does that mean for the travel industry? The algorithms that they use to project demand and set prices, throw them out. They have no idea where the market's going to be. It really indicates a lack of confidence in the economy. It leads to a lack of confidence in people's fears about travel, right? Their own strengths. And fear is a powerful word when it comes to making decisions about travel. So what does that mean for you if you're a soccer fan? Well, I know the word fan means fanatic, and people will do anything to go to a game, but you have a lot of foreign folks now who are thinking twice about coming to the U.S. for those games because they're worried they either won't be let in or somehow they'll be detained. Now, whether that ever happens or not doesn't matter. It's the optics. What about the other cities in North America hosting the games? In Mexico and in Canada, their bookings are way up and their hotels are getting full. So, for those of you not going to the games and not interested in that stuff, what does it mean to your travels? What do you need to know? Well, with that booking window going crazy, that means there are going to be a lot of empty seats coming over to the U.S. on planes, and conversely, a lot of empty seats going back. It's also going to mean the same thing for U.S. domestic travel. The same booking window changes have happened. They've been shortened. A lot of excess capacity, both in domestic fares and international fares. So starting in about a week or less, you're going to start seeing some amazing airfare deals throughout the U.S. and throughout the world. We're already starting to see it on both domestic and international fares. LA to New York, $270 round trip. At this time of the year, it should be $440 or $500. That tells you something right there. How about international? We saw airfares from New York to Paris, round trip in January, as low as $340. They should be $800. That tells you a lot as well. But there's a wrinkle to this that I need to warn you about, and that's this. What happened this past summer when people decided not to come to the U.S.? Did that mean they didn't travel? Absolutely not. They decided to go somewhere else. And where is that somewhere else? It was Europe. Overcrowding, over tourism like you can't believe. Where did the Canadians go? They either went to Mexico or they went to Europe. They didn't come to the U.S. Where did the Europeans go? They went within Europe, shorter flights. And what that meant is that while the airfares may have been lower, the hotel rates there didn't discount at all. They were full. And the same thing may be happening in the summer of 2026. Be aware of that and book accordingly. In the U.S., different story. I think airfares and hotel rates will have to come down, but not overseas. Airfares will come down, maybe not hotel rooms. So be aware of that. And look, the bottom line is these are all self-inflicted wounds, and it's all going to impact everyone. Yes, it may become a buyer's market, but that's if you can overcome your fears of traveling based on immigration and visa policies. And not everybody can do that. All right, moving right along, but just so you know about that, let's go back to those cries out from the U.S. Department of Transportation for the golden age of aviation, hearkening us back to a nicer, kinder, gentler time when we all dressed up for our flights and everything worked perfectly. Really? I talked about this last week. That's garbage. There was no golden age of aviation. The flights took 22 hours, not 6. Air safety was worse than it is today, right? And airline food still sucked. Who are you kidding, right? Airfares were much higher than they are today, right? And that's not even adjusted for inflation. All those things, that's not the golden age of aviation. But yet, we think it was. So in keeping with that, we did this last week. We're going to continue to do this because it's too much fun. I'm going to run you this United Airlines commercial from 40 years ago, and you tell me if that was the golden age of aviation. Roll it.
United Airlines makes me feel like the boss. They know I'm a busy woman. So now they've given me more carry-on space than any other airline, which I prefer to think of as carry-off space. I grab my case, an hat from above, completely unsquashed. I get my clothes, free of wrinkles, from the closet. I whisk my suitcase from United's brand new luggage racks, and the boss is on her way. Fly the friendly skies of United.
Where you are the boss.
Yeah, you're the boss, all right? Luggage rack, unwrinkled hat, big luggage bins. I mean, are you serious? I mean, come on. Forget it. Now, here's another ad from about the same time from an airline that's no longer with us, Eastern Airlines.
Come fly with us to Eastern's places.
Feel the seconds, feel each minute. As the day goes by, feel yourself in it. It's a good day to up and fly away. It's so easy to do. Eastern's got the right time and the right place for you. Every day, an Eastern plane is on the way.
Let Eastern Airlines be your wings. With over 1,300 flights a day to more than 100 cities, the people of Eastern have the right time and the right place for you.
So up and fly away. It's so easy to do. Eastern's got the right time and the right place for you.
Of course, in my book, Eastern stands for every airplane starts today except right now. By the way, a little footnote to that ad. You notice the plane they were flying, a Lockheed 1011. For those of us old enough to remember, Eastern Airlines went out of business in 1991. And the last flight in to Miami was one of those L-1011s from Colombia. And when it landed in Miami, passengers got off. It was the end of Eastern Airlines. The plane was towed to a hangar in the remote part of MIA, where it stayed there untouched for years. And finally, one day somebody realized, here's a plane that could still fly. It was an untouched asset. an unused asset. And the folks at Delta Airlines said, you know what? Let's make an offer to the person handling the bankruptcy at Eastern and buy that plane for cents on the dollar. All we got to do is get it to Atlanta, where our maintenance base is, kick the tires, put in new fluids, fix the engines, repaint it in Delta colors at the fraction of the cost it would have cost us to buy a new plane, and put it in the air. So guess what? They did. They sent a volunteer crew to Miami. They went into the hangar. They replaced the tires, the hydraulic fluids, all the essential moving parts that they had to upgrade. And all they needed to do was put enough fuel in there to fly it from Miami to Atlanta, which they did safely. It landed in Atlanta. It was towed to the maintenance hangar. The doors closed. The maintenance crews went into work to try to strip the plane of everything so they could turn it into a Delta 1011. And the minute they started undoing panels, they were hit by dozens and dozens of bales of cocaine. Isn't that a great story? Can you imagine you're the cocaine dealer and you finally made your biggest score ever, and the plane lands and the airline goes out of business and you're out of luck? Anyway, Delta did get that plane in the sky within a month, and it was in profit within a month. So it lived on for many other years. Eastern sadly did not. So much for the golden age of aviation. We'll run some more videos of those commercials in the days and weeks ahead, just because it's comic relief, right? It's comic relief. But we go back to those days thinking that's the way it was. It wasn't that way there anyway. I mean, we were in denial 40 years ago, right? And now we're in denial now. One little footnote about airlines going out of business. Spirit Airlines received about $100 million in additional creditor money so they can stay in the air. And that means they'll be flying through the holidays and through probably mid-January until they'll need some more infusion of cash to figure out what they're going to do. But one thing I want all of you to keep in mind, and most of us don't think about this, we always pay with our credit cards when we fly, and that's a good idea because we're protected under the federal credit laws. If the airline goes out of business, or the cruise ship goes out of business, or the hotel closes, under the federal credit law, if you contract for a good or service that you don't receive, you get an immediate credit back on your statement, and then the credit card company becomes the creditor against that entity that didn't provide the goods or the service. Fair enough. But here's what you're not being told. There's something called a holdback. And every major credit card company, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, has it as a tool if they feel that the merchant or travel provider is on shaky financial grounds. Here's how it works. Normally, I want to go from A to B. I go make a reservation. I pay with my credit card. I get my ticket. I'm charged on my credit card, and I pay it when the bill comes in. But where does that money go when I pay it on the credit card? Normally, it goes to the travel provider or the merchant. But if the credit card company feels that the merchant's on shaky financial ground, they do what's called a holdback. They have the right in their own agreement with the merchant to do that, which means I make a reservation to fly from New York to LA in March. I put it on my card today. It's on my statement next week. I pay it, but the credit card company holds that money back and doesn't give it to the airline until I'm literally on that plane in March. Because if they did it right away and then the airline goes out of business, when they gave me the credit, then the credit card company would be on the hook for money they could never recover. They'd become another bankruptcy creditor. So anytime you hear, and by the way, you can ask the question and find out the answer, whether it's company A or company B, and you're about to pay with a credit card, call the merchant, the banking organization, the Visas, the MasterCards, or the American Expresses or the Discovers, and say, in the case of this particular hotel or airline or cruise ship, are you doing holdbacks? And if the answer is yes, you have reason to be concerned as well, right? Because even if they go under and you get your money back, you still don't get to where you want to go and you'll have to pay a higher fare. And the irony of all of this is, if a company's on shaky ground, right, and they're relatively unstable, and all of a sudden a major credit card company puts a holdback on, that triggers their failure. They have no cash flow. The only person protected here is the credit card company. So just wanted you guys to know that. All right, moving right along. Speaking of responsibility, we've talked about this on the air before, skip lagging, otherwise known as hidden city tickets. So for example, you want to go from Los Angeles to Dallas, and the ticket's $400. But the airline has a flight that goes from Los Angeles to Austin with a stop in Dallas, and the ticket's $200. It would stand to reason that you just get on the plane on the $200 ticket to Austin, but get off the plane when it gets to Dallas and save $200. In theory, it works if you don't have any checked bags. In theory, it works if the airline's not tracking your flight, because they know, and if you're on a round trip ticket, it can't work because they know, if they're tracking your flight, that you didn't complete the flight and you're not going to get back on the plane in Austin to fly back to LA. If you try to get back on the plane in Dallas to fly back to LA, they'll throw you off the flight and charge you the full fare, otherwise known as skip lagging, right? And the airlines claim that it violates their carriage contract. Well, a lot of people would argue that if you buy a 6-pack of Coke and decide that you only want to drink 3 bottles, that's your choice. And I tend to believe them. So the argument has always been, will the airlines enforce that contract of carriage and make your life miserable? In many cases, they didn't go after you. They went after the travel agent who issued the ticket and issued them a debit memo charging the travel agent additional money for writing that ticket that they allegedly knew was a hidden city ticket, right? Well, guess what? In Germany recently, the airline caught a passenger doing exactly that, skip lagging, but the passenger took them to court and he won. He won because the judges ruled that it was his choice, right? So now that didn't set legal precedent in the US yet, but we're not there yet. Get ready for some other court cases that will be coming. But my advice until that happens is don't do it, because the airlines have sophisticated computer systems now that track the entire length of your journey. And if you don't complete the circuit, you get penalized in more ways than one. Just mentioning that. All right, let's go out and say hello to a couple people. We've got Jim and Harriet, always number one, saying hi from Richmond, Virginia. We've got Linda saying hi from Naples. I'll be waiting to book my mid-March airfare to Dubai and Egypt for 10 days. Since that's what you suggest, you've never steered me wrong yet. Okay, but I'll give you one other caveat to that. You can still go on Google Flights and book it now, because if the fares come down dramatically, you'll get an alert, and you can get you do the credit game where you cancel that original flight, rebook it at a lower fare, and get a credit against a future flight for the difference. Okay, either way you want to play it. All right. Camilla's saying hi from Tucson. Sandy's saying greetings from Charlotte. Happy holidays. Love the Mandarin Oriental. I couldn't agree with you more. Love this hotel. You know, when people book hotels, there's the ROI approach and there's the ROE approach. The ROI approach is pretty predictable. Was it worth it for the money I spent for the room? Was it worth the investment? I look at it when it comes to a hotel like this as an ROE approach, a return on emotion. And on that, we're all styling if we stay here. Truly. All right, let's keep going here. Sue saying hi from Bellingham, Washington. Mary Louise, always on time. Good morning from Scottsdale. Big hug and kiss to you, darling. Joy is saying, going to Spain mid-August, when is the best time to purchase airfare? Well, right now, remember, August is still high season in most books. So if you want to purchase it now, you can, under the same caveat I just suggested. Go to Google Flights, put in a fare alert. You can do that so that the fare drops between now and August. You get the difference in a credit, and you'll still fly, right? But the airfares are only going to go up as we get closer to August, assuming everything I just told you about overcrowding and over-tourism in Europe is going to happen again, thanks to our visa and immigration policies here. All right. Will you be interviewing the travel secretary any day soon? I'd like to. You talk about the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. The request is in, and the next time in Washington, I hope to have him on the show. I'll let you know. Our good friend John Lample. I don't believe this. Stop the presses. John Lample's actually at home today. The man who travels more than I do is now back on the Upper East Side. Hello, John. Hello, Maria. Happy holidays. I'll be in New York on Monday. I hope to see you soon. Sandy's saying going to Spain right after Easter for 10 days. and from Malaga to Casablanca for 2 weeks. Can I wait till the first week in January to buy the tickets? Yes, you can. Okay. Michelle says, I'm not booking with Spirit. I get it. Mike is fully staffed Fort Lauderdale. I don't know what that means, Mike. You'll have to explain, but I appreciate that. Now, bottom line is, remember, the airfare deals are going to kick in no matter what, on effective like January 5th, but they may kick in before that because the weekend or the week after New Year's is in the travel industry, the dead week. There's another dead week. We just passed it the week after Thanksgiving. Those are the two big dead weeks no matter what. But now we have the dead week following Christmas and New Year's in the rest of the world. So get ready for those fares, not just on the low-cost carriers, but on everybody. A lot of excess capacity that they have to fill. All right, a few more notes here. By the way, Hidden Malta, it's on the air right now, streaming on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus, as well as PBS. So check your local listings. And Hidden Gems of Santa Monica is now streaming. Anthony will post where you can find that online. That's part of our Travel Detective series. Things you didn't know about Santa Monica, California. That's always helpful. And of course, we have Hidden Hong Kong premiering very soon. I think we have do we have a clip of that, Anthony?
People may think they know this pivotal location in Asia with its nonstop energy, but I'm going to show you the Hong Kong you never knew existed, where the ancient and modern worlds often collide and coexist. A place that moves at its own rhythm and makes you think about the bigger picture. A small destination where we'll go beyond the stereotypes and find more than a few surprises, all waiting to be discovered. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this is Hidden Hong Kong, coming soon on PBS.
And check your local listings. That's going to happen next month, which, by the way, is what? Just a few days away. One statistic I want to share with you, which are the states, not just the airports, the states with the worst flight delay and cancellation record? It might surprise you. Most people would say, oh, New Jersey because of Newark. And they're pretty bad, right? In Newark, 1 out of every 4 flights is either late or canceled. How about that? But we're talking states. It's West Virginia with more than 27% of their flights delayed or disrupted. All right. That's followed by Virginia, Kansas, and Florida. Now, how did they make the list? Because regardless of airports, how'd that happen? It's called weather. If you have a weather problem in the southeast, boy, oh boy, everybody's flights get delayed because it starts moving east to west. Anyway, now you know. But at Newark, 1 in every 4 flights is either late or scratched. Not a good record. Okay. A few more things we want to talk about. Let's go down here. Oh, Anthony's now posted where you can find Hidden Santa Monica. So I hope you'll check that out. Let's go back over here. Oh, Mike is now saying the Air Traffic Control Center in Fort Lauderdale is fully staffed. Nice to hear that. All right, here's one from Michelle who says, do you ever spend more than 1 week in the same place? I'm going to give you a qualified answer. Not really. But next week, we're going to take the week off for Christmas and the holiday. I hope you'll bear with me on that. But we'll come back with our next global travel update on the 30th of December. We'll let you know where that location is. But next week, I will be in one place for 1 week. And that gives you the opportunity, I only get once a year, to binge watch as much Wheel of Fortune as I can. And you think I'm kidding. Well, partly kidding. But I'll be back on the East Coast for that. Other than that, we're traveling again, and we do nonstop because, as you know, I'll be speaking at all the travel and adventure shows starting in 2026. Anthony, if you have that graphic handy, we can post it to let you know what cities I'll be speaking in and where. Starts in Seattle on January 11th, then New York, then Chicago, South Florida, otherwise known as Fort Lauderdale, then LA, otherwise known as Long Beach, the San Francisco Bay Area, otherwise known as Santa Clara and San Jose, Dallas, and then rounding it out in Denver. So I hope to see you guys there, and we'll have a lot of fun talking about all this stuff, but also answering all of your questions. Another housekeeping note, our radio show this week, Eye on Travel from CBS News, airs from a place most of you have never been, and most of you say, oh, I don't really want to go there. Well, let me tell you where it's airing from. The hottest place on the planet, and we're not talking about top picks, we're talking temperature, and the lowest place that we know in North America. It's coming from a place called the Oasis, an amazing resort in Death Valley, California. A lot of surprises there in a location that most of you would say, really, I don't want to go? You're going to be pleasantly surprised about what we discover there and the history that we'll see there. The Oasis in Death Valley, California, this Saturday. Check your local listings between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, it also streams live on our website, petergreenberg.com. Here's some pre-sent questions you guys did earlier this week. Linda says, I'll be paying attention and holding off on buying my airfare for mid-March for 10 days. Okay. James is saying, my wife and I are planning a trip from Chicago to Honolulu next September. We're hoping you advise how far in advance should we book our trip for the best prices. Again, you can play the arbitrage game, because if you book it now, no matter what fare you get, if it goes down, you can actually go in there, cancel it, get a credit, then apply the credit against the lower fare and get an additional credit to apply against another fare. Just one caveat on that credit. Remember, when you get an airline credit, when you cancel a flight, the clock starts ticking and gives you 12 months of validity on that credit to use it on a future flight. But it's based on when, not when you were flying, but when you made the reservation. So if you make a reservation now for next September and then you cancel the flight, that credit may only be good for 2 months. So be very careful about that. Other than that, if you book the flight and the fare goes down, you have an opportunity. All right, there you go. And we have one here from, is it Talto, who says, thoughts on flying Frontier Airlines worth the savings? It depends on your level of expectation of a flight. Here's my level of expectation on a flight. Why do I fly? To go from point A to point B and not die. I'm not there for the food. I'm not there for the Broadway show tunes. I'm not there for the rich Corinthian leather. I'm there just to go from point A to point B and emerge unscathed. I have no trouble flying Frontier. I do fly them all the time. Again, understand their pricing model, about ticketing and ancillary fees. And once you understand that, you're okay. And by the way, they're starting to do it now, but it'll really be kicking in January. They're installing a first class section on the plane. How about that? So priced a whole lot less than American, United, and Delta. So you might want to investigate that. Okay, let's go to the photo of the week. Now, you got to love this photo. 3 cheers out for Bob Levine, who writes, here's a photo I took during my Virgin Voyage cruise from San Juan to the Caribbean. This was in Antigua. It is the most perfect rainbow I've ever encountered. Look at that closely. Talk about a perfect half moon, right? By the way, Virgin Voyage has reinstated my thoughts on cruising. Everything on board Valiant Lady was amazing. Happy to hear that. But you know what? How many photographers wait for the light and never get the shot? You got it, Mr. Levine. Congratulations. And if you think you got a photo that matches Mr. Levine's photo as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree, it goes right up there. Again, Hidden Malta on the air right now. Hidden Hong Kong premiering next month. You can go online and see our segment on Hidden Santa Monica. And then, of course, the radio show Eye on Travel coming from Death Valley, California this weekend. I will see you not next week. I hope you enjoy the holidays, but I'll see you on the 30th. Check your local listings on our website to find out what time and where. We'll see you then. In the meantime, have a great rest of the year, and let's hope for a happier, saner 2026 on every imaginable location, every imaginable platform, and everybody's imaginable life. All right, I'll see you in about 10 days. Bye, guys.
ที่นี่สถานีวงเวียนใหญ่ในนามการรถไฟแห่งประเทศไทยขอขอบคุณผู้โดยสารทุกท่านที่ใช้รถไฟเป็นยานพาหนะในการเดินทางขอขอบคุณครับ